I'm going to take those books back in my suitcase. So I expect them to be sold. And then if you wish me to sign the book for you, the book will be worth $16.25 as a consequence of my signature on it. There's also only 2 copies left of the booklet, I Was a Stranger. I have one here, and there's one left on the table there. I'll just let those 2 go. So whoever wants the one that I have up here, I'm going to read something from it. So that's why this one is up here. But I will let it go after the speech.
You have to make a call.
Okay. I do have a little box back there for checks, and then the $15, you throw it in there, and it tells you, make check payable too. So it's all back there. I wanted to mention, yes, there was a Red Rose Rescue this morning. Yes, there was. And 50% of the people who were arrested are Catholic priests. Okay. All right, so that's 2 out of 4. All right. Father Fidelis Moshensky and also Father David Nix were arrested in the Red Rose Rescue, along with my good friend William Goodman. I spent a lot of time with William, and he and I were actually in jail together. So he was in the men's section, and I was in the women's section. And then we have baby Jane Doe. She does not want her name to be given out. She's going to be anonymous in union and solidarity with the nameless, faceless, unwanted children. It's kind of interesting, though, the last time that a Red Rose Rescue took place at that abortion clinic on Georgia Avenue, Father Moshensky was also arrested at that particular rescue, as well as baby Jane Doe and a few others, Lauren Handy, and I'm probably missing one other person. Who else?
Joan McKee.
Joan McGee, I think it was Joan. No, actually, she wasn't. Come on, maybe it was just the 3 of them. Could be. Adele left. So, in any case, they were all booted out the door of the district police station without any charges being filed. That was incredible. Who would have thought? We don't expect that will necessarily happen today, but we can pray for it. And we're really not even quite sure why it happened last time, but they did a rescue for which there were absolutely no legal consequences. And that was on the 25th or 26th of May, just a couple of months ago. I'll give a little bit of a biography of myself. I got involved in the pro-life movement when I was only 23 years old. So I'm a little older now. And I was fairly newly graduated from Southern Illinois University, one of the most godless places on the face of the earth, if you know anything about SIU. But I was 23 years old, and for whatever reason, I think there's maybe some explanations, but very early, I was attracted to the activist end of pro-life work. And maybe it's my personality. I'm very impatient. I like to see results happen now. I don't want to have to wait 5 years to see something happen, so there's that, right? So activism, maybe we'll get some results more immediately than later. And I also think it also matters who you meet early on when you get involved in pro-life work. And one of the persons I met very early was Joseph Scheidler. And so I can say that Joe is just about single-handedly responsible for my life of crime. I've dedicated my book to Joe, and it says, "To Joe, who set me on the path, and for Edmund, who came with me." And that would be my husband. And Edmund and I met getting arrested together. At the Bread and Roses Women's Health Center, abortion center in Milwaukee, he showed up at the rendezvous because somebody had invited him. He was a mere 25 years old. I was already 32, so yes, I'm older than my husband by 7 years. And we got arrested together. So I definitely landed, despite myself, on the secret to a very happy marriage. Get arrested with the person and doing a good deed, and you'll be bonded together, and like nothing else could ever bond you together. As a matter of fact, when we were married September 30th, 1989, and 1 month later we were both in jail because of a rescue that we had done before we were married. And there was a society column, the Meg Kissinger column, in the Milwaukee Journal. And somehow Meg found out about us going to jail, and the headline was, "Honeymoon Over." And so I went to jail for a month, and Edmund went to jail for 10 days, and so there it is. Somehow, between all of that, we managed to have 3 children. I want to talk about the Red Rose Rescue, and there's a few people in this room who have participated. Linda Mueller has been one of those who did a Red Rose Rescue. And we have other rescuers in the room. Ron Brock actually was one of the first people, may have been, in fact, the first in the first batch of people to ever break face back in 1994. And Joan Andrews Bell is with us as well. I planned it. I planned it. Everybody else got arrested but me. I just talked to the media. June 4th. It was June 4th, 1994. FACE had been signed into law May 20th. So we got the credit for being the first pro-life group to break FACE. I have been holding back for literally decades on doing rescues. And I have 3 reasons why I held back. Bernadette, Joseph, and Patrick. My three children. Because you can't raise children when you're behind bars. And that's my first duty, is to be with them. Even though if you read my book, you'll see that, timing being what it is, I did go to jail for 7 months when Joseph was only 4 months old. But it was a work release, child care release thing, and so it was, in that sense, the jail sentence was mitigated. And but anyway, that's the reason. And now that the children are older, I've always believed in rescues. I've never stopped believing in them. I believe they should be done. And all I needed was somebody to say, let's do them. And I've been thinking about a Red Rose Rescue type of rescue for about 12 years. It's just been right there in my head. And then a couple of people come to me, maybe it's just like stamped on my forehead, let's do rescues. One of them was your husband. And I was at the Rose dinner at the March for Life, a couple of March for Lives ago. And I was sitting at my round table, whatever, it was after the dinner was over, and Chris Bell comes up to me, very eager. He says, "Monica, you gotta start doing rescues." Well, you're singing my song. I actually didn't really expect you to be singing that song, but okay. And then an email started going around from John Ryan, a longtime rescuer in St. Louis, and he wanted to have a discussion. Shouldn't we at least be talking about it? So April 22nd of 2017, We had a meeting in St. Louis. Joan was there, and a bunch of other pro-life leaders were there. Jonathan Darnell was there, and a few others, to talk about should we be doing rescues. And William Goodman was there. John Cavanaugh O'Keefe, Joe Scheidler was there, Randall Terry was there.
Jack Ames.
Jack was there, thank you. And we came out of the meeting saying, yeah, we want to. And then we had a second meeting in Chicago to actually start planning them. And I put forth the idea of doing rescues this way. In other words, Red Rose Rescues. In fact, we came up with the name Red Rose Rescue at that Chicago planning session that we had. That would have been in June of 2017. So the idea was, if we're going to do rescues, first of all, there is this thing called FACE, right? The Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. Who wants to have to deal with that? Nobody. Unless you have to. Couldn't we do rescues without provoking a FACE charge and do a rescue that's as effective? And maybe even more effective, actually. So the idea was we will not block doors. We're not chaining ourselves up to stuff. Not that I'm against any of that. I'm not. But why can't we just go into the abortion center, cap the group off at 6? So a Red Rose Rescue will probably not have more than 6 people. We don't like to have any less than 3 to 6. So in other words, this is not a protest of abortion. We are not there to occupy the waiting room. We're there to be a presence. And the first goal is to talk to the moms. And I've always been, if you want to really get me annoyed, here's how to annoy Monica Miller. Invite me to come to your abortion clinic to participate in the protest, and then tell me, oh, don't cross that line. Oh, that's the clinic property. Oh, don't put your foot over that line. Oh, that's your purse. You can't put your purse on that piece of grass. Who is making the rules here? The baby killers are making the rules. And you know what you're doing? You're obeying them. They have no moral authority to keep you from going in there and talking women out of abortions and stopping the killing from happening. There are no boundaries to charity. Charity has no boundary. And so we ignore that there are boundaries. We'll trespass on the parking lot if we have to talk a woman out of an abortion. Trespass, please. Go there and give that woman that literature. Reach out to her. Take risks. How do you expect a Holocaust to be ended if you're not willing to take risks?
Amen.
It's not going to happen. You keep yourself in your safe zone. We will be battling abortion for the next 100 years. We have to take the risks to save the babies from abortion. Don't be afraid of that. So, erase the boundaries. We will go inside. The 6-person team will go inside and will be incognito, simply sit down next to the mom or crouch down next to her chair, quietly talk to these moms. Let them know that you are there to help them, to give them literally, that last minute opportunity to turn away from the killing of their child. The mom is not on the sidewalk anymore. The sidewalk counselors were not able to reach her if they were there. She's gone upstairs to kill her unborn child. Why can't you go in and talk to her? Where is the moral law that says you can't go in there and talk to her and give her that last minute opportunity to turn away from the killing of her baby? This is an act of love. This is an act of charity. And then, we will present the roses to the moms. We'll give those, and maybe even to the clinic staff. These are acts of love. And so the first thing is talk to those moms who are lined up, the boyfriends, the fathers of the babies, and so on, to give them that last opportunity to turn away. We also will not leave the clinic. That's the other thing. This is not a clinic blitz. This is a rescue. So we will stay. The police are going to get called eventually. They're going to tell you you're trespassing. And then you've got to explain to the police why you're there. Human life is at stake. If we leave, as soon as we leave, officer, the killing of the unborn is going to begin. We cannot leave the babies to go off to their executions. So we will stay. And I believe that your mere presence in the clinic is all that's needed to keep the killing from happening. As long as you are there, your presence keeps the killing from happening. Now, maybe, in fact, in some of our experiences, the moms will eventually, the clinic staff try to take them and put them in a back room. Well, we've got to try to go follow them into that back room. Okay, so one or two rescuers are going back there. So that's one of the things we have to still strategize about. But when we're there and we're in the waiting room, and let's just say that the moms were sequestered away from us, you sing hymns, you pray out loud. Can you imagine? You're singing hymns in an abortion clinic? You're praying prayers inside an abortion clinic? And amazing things have happened. I have to say, I mean, yes, are there detractors? Okay, yes, there are the detractors from the Red Rose Rescue. I won't get into all of that, but let me just give you, for instance, of the fruits. The last rescue that I did was December 2nd of last year. And I've been going to court ever since, and then I've been going to jail ever since, and so on and so forth. The day of the rescue, this was at the Women's Center Abortion Clinic in West Bloomfield, Michigan. And during the rescue, one of our rescuers, Patrice Woodworth, talked to a 20-year-old girl there for her abortion. She had a girlfriend with her. She was filling out the paperwork while Patrice was talking to her. And Patrice said something like, you know that God loves you and God loves this baby. And the woman said, I don't believe in God. And Patrice said, well, you might not believe in God, but he believes in you. She left. We actually have that on a video of her getting up and leaving the clinic. So she left. We will count that as a turnaway. We don't know if she came back. We don't know what being honest, we don't know what the end result was. We know that baby didn't die that day. Absolutely, for sure we know, and I'll tell you why in just a few seconds, why I know for sure that baby didn't die that day. We all go to court. Now here's the other thing. Red Rose Rescue, any rescue, but Red Rose Rescues don't end when you're arrested. They continue. The witness to the unborn continues in the media. It continues when you go to court. And you are testifying on behalf of those innocent unborn children that you were there to protect in front of the jurors, the bailiffs, the prosecutors, the judge. It's a great, amazing opportunity to speak the truth in an official setting, a formal setting. Your testimony is written down. It's documented, right? For all posterity, you're standing up for the innocent unborn in a court of law. So the rescue doesn't end, it continues when you go to court. Did we get convicted? Yes, we're convicted. We're all a bunch of criminals. Okay. What's the problem? Why are we getting convicted? You're getting convicted because you're standing up for a people that nobody wants. Why would you expect otherwise? The unborn, when you go to court, and you can read my book, because I say a lot about what our court experiences were back in the 1980s with the rescues that we did. But let me just give you a for instance of what you face. when we had our trial for the December 2nd rescue, we were in front of a judge, Mark Barron. The prosecutor, from the instant that prosecutor looked at us, it was instant hate. Larry Sherman, pro-abortion, hostile, belligerent, oh my gosh. As a matter of fact, in my book, I talk about a prosecutor named Jeffrey Kremers. Has anybody read this book? And okay, read Jeffrey Kremers. Jeffrey Kremers was very nice looking, tall, elegant, $300 suits, right? Hated our guts. Oh my gosh, hostile, pro-abortion, good-looking prosecutor. So when we got thrown in with Larry Sherman prosecuting us in the Red Rose Rescue, I said to Edmund, I met Jeffrey Kremers' ugly twin brother today, so there we are. So we get into court, and in the jury selection phase of the trial, for those of you who are initiated, called the voir dire, right? The jury selection. A pool of jurors come in, and of course, attorneys get to ask them questions. By the way, we had an amazing attorney, Robert Muse. You want to make a donation somewhere, donate to the American Freedom Law Center. And the man is worth every penny of any donation you give to that group. He's just incredible. So we're selecting the jurors. One of the first things that Larry Sherman asks for from the judge, Your Honor, we would like you to make a rule that the jurors not be told that the trespass occurred at an abortion clinic. We're off to the races. In other words, we will keep abortion out of this trial. It's a simple trespass case. It has nothing to do with abortion. That even the jurors would not even know that we trespassed at a facility that performs abortions. Read my book. Nothing has changed. We faced exactly the same thing back in 1987. Sanitize the pro-life trial. Keep abortion out of it. Well, why do we have to keep abortion out of it? Because, wow, maybe there'll actually be a juror who's going to acquit these people based on the fact that they were defending innocent human beings. So we got to make sure that we control the trial to keep the truth out. Well, this is kind of funny. So we got this panel of jurors, and one of the questions that's, kind of the boilerplate question, is there any reason why you feel that you could not render a fair and impartial judgment in this case? Well, like, how are they supposed to tell? You're not telling them what this case is about, but okay. Some guy raises his hand. He says, I don't think I can be fair and impartial. And so Larry says, well, why not? And the guy says, I could tell that this case has something to do with abortion. Stamped in our foreheads or something, right? And then he says, I'm pro-choice, and I'm an atheist. And I couldn't be fair in this trial. Wow, isn't it interesting that it was the pro-abortion juror who could tell that this case had something to do with abortion, right? So now the white elephant in the room is everybody knows what's going on, but you can't, this is stupid. It's ridiculous to try and pretend that this doesn't have anything to do with abortion. We get on the witness stand, we're supposed to abide by all these rules. We're not allowed to talk about the babies and why we were there. The heck with that. How many times, objection, sustained, right? Because I'm in fact, even said to Larry, you know what your problem is? You don't think that unborn babies exist, right? So but the jurors have no way to acquit us because we're denied a defense of necessity. Without a defense of necessity, we're guilty. And why don't we, what's the defense of necessity? Well, it's a common law defense, and some of you might already know what it's about, but it basically works like this. You may not be charged with a crime should you break the law to prevent a greater evil from occurring, right? So of a classic analogy, you you have a reasonable belief that a house is on fire. What do you do to get into the house to save the people who are inside? You bust the door down, you break, and you enter. Under other circumstances, that's a crime. But in this situation, not a crime. Okay, well, if unborn babies don't exist, and a woman has a legal constitutional right to kill her unborn child, then there is no legal injury that the law needs to recognize. And it really is the most horrible fiction. I have likened being in these situations where you go to court as a pro-lifer. It's like you are the only sane person in an insane asylum. Okay? Because the unborn do not exist, no injury. In fact, in my book, that's exactly what Judge McMahon said. We are the unreasonable people to believe that our actions were necessary to prevent an injury from happening. We're the unreasonable ones. Okay, so we're insane. In fact, I even said to a reporter out in the hall, because I was so frustrated, maybe we should just plead insanity. We're insane, okay, because we blocked the door to an abortion clinic for absolutely no good reason. Right? So, there you have it. We were convicted, and then Judge Barron in the sentencing phase. Okay, so now we're sentenced. March 14th. Back in court for the sentence. So he imposed a $500 fine, 8 days of community service, and then he had loaded up these probation conditions. And they were very numerous. The most egregious of the probation conditions was that we had to remain, nobody could believe this, unprecedented in the history of legalized abortion. Not even in the heyday of the rescue movement when hundreds and thousands of pro-lifers were blocking the doors to clinics would you ever have such a probation condition. We were banned from being within 500 feet of every abortion clinic in the United States of America. Did we hear that right? So, and there were a bunch of other conditions. We had to report. This was reporting probation, so we had to go see a probation officer every month for a year. We were not allowed to have any contact with each other. None of the 5 rescuers could email, talk on the phone, send a letter, no contact. We could not even be in the same room together at any event. That would be considered contact. If we wanted to leave the state, we had to notify the court. We were not allowed to intimidate or harass anybody seeking reproductive health care. What the heck does that even mean? Intimidate. Well, it's their language for no sidewalk counseling, no picketing at any abortion clinics. Wow. Where did this come from? So we told the judge, A, we're not paying a fine. B, we're not doing community service. C, we're not abiding by these probation conditions. We told him flat out, just give us a jail sentence and let's be done with it. He wouldn't do it. So here we are stuck with this probation and all the other junk. And we were waiting for over 2 months. We're trying to be patient. Our attorney filed an emergency petition to the appellate court to stay our sentence pending the appeal. Time is going by. We haven't heard from the appellate court. Why are they dragging their feet? We don't know. So William and I made a decision to go back to the Women's Center on June 1st, deliberately breaking that probation. I wanted to provoke it. I knew I was not going to abide by the probation conditions. I might as well get this thing over now in the summer, right? Well, I've got some time to go to jail. rather than have this thing dragged on, and then what happens, your tail light is out on your car, and you get pulled over, and wow, there's a warrant, and you're just whisked off to jail. I'd rather be in control of when I go to jail. So we go back to the Women's Center, and I deliberately stood 30 feet from the door. And what do you know, while I was standing there in a spot where I was not allowed to be, I talked a woman out of an abortion that day. She was like a piece of ripened fruit that fell right into my hands. It was an absolutely glorious counseling. And her name is Yolanda. Talked her out of the abortion. And then the police showed up after she left. We got arrested. And then we went and had our hearing in front of Judge Barron. He revoked the probation. Finally, he gave us the jail sentence. And so William and I were ready to go. And so both of us served the sentence. And I was released just last Tuesday. I did bond out. I bonded out the day that we were arrested for the probation violation because I had talked her out of an abortion. I needed to be available to her. She had my phone number. I had her phone number. I needed to, so I bonded out. They put me on a tether. I was on a tether for 2 weeks. And what was the one restriction on the tether? That I couldn't go within 500 feet of any abortion clinic in the United States of America. In any case. William stayed in jail, so he got out sooner than I. He got out July 5th. I got out July 17th. We have a third Red Rose rescuer in jail now. From that rescue, Matthew Connolly. He'll be out August 1st. And Patrice still has yet to be picked up for violating the probation. Mary Wagner from Canada is back in jail, if you don't know, who also has done numerous rescues and hands out roses to the moms at clinics in Toronto, Canada. Let me urge, if there's people in this room who have it on their heart to do a Red Rose rescue, like I say, the fruit that has come, even just from that December 2nd rescue, the woman that left the clinic the day that we did the rescue, the woman I talked out of an abortion when I violated the probation conditions. Then, June 29th, all of us had to be back in court for the restitution hearing. The clinic wanted to have the judge impose restitution on us for revenue that the clinic lost because of our trespass. All of us are back in court. During the hearing, the clinic manager, Pam DiMaggio, takes the witness stand and under oath, complete with a chart. She said, that day, 12 women did not show up for their abortions.
Praise God.
12 women.
12
So she's blaming us. I'll take the credit. For 12 women, they had 23 abortion appointments that day, and 12 women did not go into the clinic because of the rescue. And she had it all itemized out. The only thing that wasn't there was the name of the woman. But what she was there for, the gestational age of her baby, how much the abortion was going to cost, all itemized out. And patient number 2 was she described the woman who left the clinic the day of the rescue. So she was cataloged with the 12. So that's why we know. And then she even testified, every woman, we called them back and none of them responded to our calls. That's incredible. Now, honestly, if you put that in context, if you were a sidewalk counselor and you had 12 women leave the clinic, but you don't know why, but they left, you would count those as 12 turnaways. You don't know if the baby, I'm not going to say they're saved babies. I can't go that far. But what's the law of averages there on our side? At least one of those women out of the 12, their baby is still alive. I think the law of averages. We know no matter what, those babies didn't die that day. If I was going to be executed, I think I'd like to have a reprieve. And then the executioner, unfortunately my own mother, is there to reconsider her decision. We bought those babies time, 12. And my husband was in court. By the way, William and I were brought into court from jail and we were manacled. It was quite the spectacle. And Edmund's in court, my husband, and he has this look on his face, and I said, well, Ed, what's the matter? He says, what is she, an idiot? Because he couldn't believe that she was willing to testify. Because when push comes to shove, she's basically saying, wow, this thing was really effective. Right? But that's how badly they wanted that restitution. Well, it was a double victory. The judge didn't give it to them. I have to admit that of all of the trials that I faced regarding that rescue, the threat of the restitution was the most burdensome. Not the jail term, not the probation, that. There was no way we were going to pay 1 red cent to that killing center. But the judge could have ordered that my income be garnished. It sickened me. It absolutely sickened me. I begged God in my jail cell, please, you have to save me. You have to save us. He did. Right? And it was an incredible humiliation for them. That she gets on the stand and is willing to admit that 12 women didn't get their abortions that day because of our rescue, and then they still don't get the restitution. They wanted that really badly. That would have been a huge victory for the abortion industry, that pro-lifers were stuck with paying them back for the babies that didn't get aborted. That would have been a huge victory for them. So, like I'm saying, Red Rose Rescue had enormous fruits. And I do have a sign-up sheet. It's my low-tech way of having people sign up for stuff. So if you're interested in participating in a Red Rose Rescue, put your name down on that sign up back there.
Pass it around.
Well, if you want to, or it's back there for people to sign. This is my last thing I'm going to talk about. I give a speech about 3 episodes that are documented in my book. But I'm only going to talk about one of them. Because this particular episode is the most profound lesson that I have learned as a pro-lifer. And I think it goes to the heart of what it is to be a pro-lifer. And that means that it goes to the heart of what is abortion really all about. And in 1988, our organization found out that a pathology lab in Northbrook, Illinois, was receiving the remains of aborted babies.
Okay.
And the way that we found out about it, an anonymous employee of Vital Med, that was the name of the pathology lab, Vital Med, an anonymous employee had called a fellow by the name of Conrad Wujner, and Conrad operated a string of pregnancy health centers in the Chicagoland, area. So he gets this call, and whoever called him said, you pro-life people can do something. On our loading dock, there are boxes filled with fetuses. You could come and get them, do something with them. So apparently, this employee was having a pain of conscience, right? So Conrad told Joe Scheidler, and then Joe Scheidler told me, and our 2 organizations, his is in Chicago, mine at that time was in Milwaukee. The pathology lab was located literally 1 hour equidistant in Northbrook, Illinois. So we went to the pathology lab, and it was located in an industrial park. And we found the building, and the employee had said that the utility door to the loading dock area is always open. We don't lock it. So sure enough, the utility door was open. It was a cold, dark February night. Everything is very, very quiet. It was like 10:30 in the evening. We go down, open up the door, and we are immediately confronted by a long concrete ramp. And I would say that the area that we entered was about as big as this room here. It was very, very spacious. And so the concrete ramp greeted us immediately. We walked down the concrete ramp, and at the end of it, we could see the loading dock. And sure enough, on the dock are a bunch of cardboard boxes. We get ourselves up on the dock. We open up the flaps of the boxes, and sure enough, they're filled with the remains of aborted babies. Hundreds of them. They are in Whirl packs, so if you read my book, you'll hear that language, Whirl pack. It's basically a medical baggie. Some of them were in specimen cups. And we knew exactly where these babies were coming from. Why? Because the boxes on the loading dock were the very boxes in which the babies had been shipped from the abortion clinics with the return labels on all the clinics. And they were coming from all over the place. Raleigh, North Carolina, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Fargo, North Dakota, Chicago, Wilmington, Delaware, from all over. And they were clinics that were owned by a woman named Susan Hill. They were the WHO clinics, so Women's Health Organization clinics. So the Delaware Women's Health, okay. There were a few other clinics that weren't associated with Susan, but most of them. So apparently, her clinics, the WHO clinics, were contracting with VitalMed. And what was VitalMed then doing? It was just a dumping ground. There was no pathology being done on these unborn babies. You could tell. This was just a pure dumping ground. I called it the treasure house of death, because you could just reach your hands in and literally come out with fistfuls of dead bodies. What's the lesson that I learned that night? So here I am. First of all, it was one of the most bizarre experiences that anybody could ever have, pro-lifer or not pro-lifer. Incredibly bizarre. So here we are, late at night, on the loading dock, with the remains of aborted babies. The mother's names were on the bags. The gestational age of the aborted baby was on the bag. And sometimes even the name of the abortionist was on the bag. So I was actually we got a lot of information. But I thought to myself, what's wrong? It's not just, and you can put some quotation marks around that, but it's not just that abortion has deprived these babies of their right to life. There's something else wrong here. And it really was just a realization that took shape like a thing inside of myself. The real plight that these babies suffer is not simply that they were killed by abortion. Their real plight is loneliness. A terrible, horrible loneliness. As if what abortion really did to them was sever them, separate them from human communion. And I even kind of had I'm not at a loading dock. This is not a loading dock. Metaphysically, where am I really? I am at the edge of the world. I'm at, now what's the edge? The edge of the world. The edge of the world is a place furthest out from human communion. And that's where the unwanted go. That's where we were. And it was a real, you feel, felt things very deeply. When you're moving the boxes, you're picking them up and you're holding them, it was as if we were embracing them, giving them their first embrace. We were bringing them back into human communion. We were bringing them back into the human family that abortion had cast them out. And again, the loading dock's not a loading dock. What's the loading dock really? It's as if these broken bodies had been put on a raft, piled up and stacked up on a raft, and then the raft is pushed out. And so now the raft is just drifting further and further away from the shore of human communion, drifting with no connection to anything or anyone. I mean, what is a baby aborted in Wilmington, Delaware, doing on a loading dock in Northbrook, Illinois, in an industrial park? It's absolutely absurd. Completely opposite of what should be the case within the comfort and the shelter of his mother's womb. And indeed, the boxes were there for disposal, for garbage pickup. In fact, some of the boxes were marked POCs, correct, for disposal. And by the way, I kept a lot of those boxes. I'll never throw them out. I still have quite a few of them. And to record, eventually they're made out of cardboard. How long are they going to last? But I've taken photographs of each one of them, so I have the photo record of the cradles, the death cradles, right? That these babies were put inside for disposal. Loneliness. That is the plight of the aborted unborn. So, if it is the essence of abortion to disconnect human beings one from another, then it informs us as to the essence of pro-life work. So, pro-life work is not only, again, quotes around that, right? Only about reestablishing the right to life. What you're really doing is you're putting the world back together again.
Wow.
That's what you're doing when you're doing pro-life work. You are calling society to recognize its innate moral responsibilities, one human being to the other. That abortion tries to reverse and says you are disconnected. And in fact, it's that false idea that to be autonomous is to be free. Right? No, it's not. It is not good for the man to be alone. It's the antithesis of authentic living. But that's what abortion tries to do. It erects the autonomous person as the paradigm of what it means to be free. And it's a lie. And it's destructive. And it leads to death. So you're putting the world back together again. I talked about this little booklet. I Was a Stranger is a project of Citizens for a Pro-Life Society that includes abortion victim photography. We do not call them graphic images. You want to also get on my bad side. They are abortion victim photos. Okay. They're not merely graphic images. Besides which, there are a lot of abortion photos that aren't necessarily graphic. They may be disturbing, but okay. And each one of the photos has a meditation that goes with it. Joan Andrews Bell provided one, and a few other people maybe in this room did as well. But I'm going to read you mine, okay? My meditation as a conclusion to my talk today. I entitle my meditation, The Reason Why. At times I thought I would be a better pro-lifer if I were more detached. That is, if I could stand emotionally aloof from the women and their preborn children. I even prayed for this kind of disconnection. But perhaps the only reason a person makes efforts to defend the unborn is precisely because that person knows he or she is not detached. I do pro-life work because I am attached. I am attached to the woman going into the clinic. I am attached to her baby. I am even attached to the abortionist. The true pro-lifer is invested in all humanity. The pro-lifer who can see another personal someone in the smallest speck of life. A monument stands 5 feet erect in the baby section of the Holy Cross Cemetery in Milwaukee. Before it lies a grave of 1,200 babies taken from the trash who were buried there September 10, 1988. The granite stone bears the words, "This monument stands as a testimony to the sanctity of human life. Among these graves of children are included preborn babies, victims of abortion." Beneath this is a quote from the first letter of John. "The reason why the world does not know us is that it never knew him. We are God's children now. Indeed, we do not know the aborted unborn. Their rejection renders them strangers. In the violence done to them, they share the rejection of Christ, as the world never knew him. But I live in the hope that one day we will see these rejected babies. We will see them and know whose broken legs those belong to whose those severed arms belong, whose shattered hands those are. And we will see them whole and free and loved. And in a great mercy, they will at last be known by the world that said to them and to Christ, 'There was no room for you.'" God bless you all.
Institute, they work for Planned Parenthood. But they came up with a study saying that, what was it, 70% of the women who do not keep their appointment for any reason never have the abortion. What was it? 70%?
I heard it was 20.
70, that's a huge amount.
Well, still, I'd say 20% pretty good.
Yeah, that would.
Yes.
Monica, you mentioned they asked for restitution. How much were they asking for the restitution for the?
It was over $5,000. Yes, sir.
When you served in prison, what reactions did you?
The inmates were very gracious to me. Okay, they were very sympathetic with the reason why I was there. But they asked me to tell them, or they heard about it. And a lot of them were actually pretty appalled. What are you doing here? The inmates were good to me. They were very generous, and I got along with just about everybody. I learned a couple of card games that I didn't know before. Card games. Yes, the time. And I taught one inmate, I taught her chess. She taught me a card game, I taught her chess.
Monica, I'm so glad that you used the word abortion mill. It puts a total different connotation instead of abortion clinic. Because clinic, to most people, means something neutral
Or a place
or
that heals.
positive, something like that. Also, arbitorial. I use that word a lot. It's near crematorium, and we want to make that
Yeah,
connection.
moratorium, yeah.
Arbitorium, aborticide,
Yes.
suicide, fratricide, matricide, and aborticide.
Yeah.
Because our side obviously is killing.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. God bless you, dear.
Thank you. Well, I have the book back there. Like I said, there's only 6 copies that I brought with me. Somebody said it was the best book ever written on abortion.
It's way up there. It's way up there.
And this is the man, give him 100% credit. Let me tell you something. This book took 10 years to find a publisher. I almost gave up. And even the Catholic publishers didn't want it.
Yeah.
So if you want to write a book and you want to be sure it doesn't get published, write it from a pro-life perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. So God made it happen, and I'd say they did a bang-up job. It looks great,
Yeah.
colored photos, dust jacket, the whole 9 yards. So I'm
And you
very
really
grateful.
have
And
to read it.
he's the one that found the publisher. He walked right up to them at some Catholic book fair, said, "I have the book for you." And they said, "Whoa, okay, have her send it to us." And they took it. Yep.
How many times have you served time in prison?
Three times. But the last time was 1993.
But
So
you've been on so many other rescues.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, well, there you go. See, guys, just because you get arrested doesn't mean you're going to do the jail time. Okay? Oh, I got things dismissed. Things got lost in the shuffle. Attorneys handled it because it was an out-of-state thing, and it was time served, and yeah. Right. I did three actual sentences. Right. Any other questions?
Yes. How can we get more police troopers going all over America?
Well, that takes leadership and recruitment. That's all it's about. And the willingness of people to do it. I'm going to tell you the secret to success. No matter what you do, the secret to success. 50% of anything you do is show up. 50%. Show up. Then the rest of the 50% is then the organizing and the strategizing and the fundraising, and show up. 50% is already a success. So, but that's it. It's just the time and effort and getting people willing to do it. So, which isn't a secret. It's just the will has to be there. The will has to be there.
Thank you, Monica Miller.
Okay.
Closing comments. Thank you, Monica Miller. It's great having you here. Be sure to read her book, Abandoned, by St. Benedict's Press. Great book. They've also published Joe Shire's book and Bob Marshall's book. Great Catholic publishing company. And they also own Can Books, which is reprinting many great books. Now, who can tell me who Pastor Ed Martin is? Anybody?
Yes, love that man.
Okay, Ed Martin, God rest his soul. By the way, when we say who he is, even though he died, he's still very much alive, right? Because no, this is only our earth. He's in eternity. Anyway, he was the greatest sidewalk counselor in the world. Absolutely fantastic. He started sidewalk counseling in Ocala, Florida. Closed abortion mills there, and then moved up to Jacksonville, St. Augustine, and closed abortion mills there. He got the bishop, a good friend of mine, Bishop Vicar Gallione, did these huge marches. All sorts of denominations, clergy were involved. Then he moved to Atlanta. Atlanta is one of the worst abortion pits in the world. And he did a great job there in Atlanta. Anyway, Ed was suffering from pancreatic cancer and went on to his eternal reward in late March.
Is that
Great
Jeannie
man.
Miller's dad?
What's that?
Is that Jeannie Miller's father?
No, his name is Martin.
Okay. No, but I'm talking about.
Oh, no. That's not Jeannie Miller. Ed Martin, he was a good friend of Don Treshman. And actually grew up in Queens, and unfortunately he left the Catholic Church for whatever reason. But there was no more ardent, more dedicated sidewalk counselor. We need that. We need that presence in front of the abortion mills, the abortoriums, whatever you want to call them. Anything but abortion clinics. So the other thing I wanted to mention.
Yeah, I just want to mention, thanks for letting me know, I didn't know Ed had died. But what I heard about Ed leaving the church, he had been, as a youth, he had been in some gangs, I think Brooklyn or wherever. And then he wanted to enter the seminary, he was getting himself up, wanted to go to the seminary, and he was rejected, not because of his past. And he just wanted to minister, he just wanted to. So basically, when he moved to Florida, he just became a Protestant minister. But when his parents were dying, he got a priest to them right away, got them their last rites, and prayed with them the rosary.
So he was Catholic at heart.
He was, yeah, he just wanted to,
What a great, great man.
yeah.
Absolutely. And he was tireless. Here, this was at one of the Operation Save America events, at carrying a huge cross. And then the last thing I want to mention is our Defend Life talk coming up in September, October, and November. All this is on our website at defendlife.org. So we bring in these great speakers like Monica Miller, Joe Schuyler, so many of the other heroes of the pro-life movement. And we bring them to parishes, in schools, in colleges, absolutely free. Our donors, God bless them, pick up the cost. So for instance, in September we have Ann McElhenney, who wrote the book on Kermit Gosnell, America's most prolific serial killer, who's now in jail for life, thanks be to God. He was secretly doing abortions in West Philadelphia, just about a half a mile from the University of Pennsylvania campus. She's a great Irish girl. Anyway, she wrote the book on Gosnell, and a movie is coming out, and it's going to be in local theaters as early as October. So that'd be great. Kermit Gosnell, wow. We need to retire abortionists like him and Leroy Carhart, every one of them.
Was that,
This is the 50th anniversary of Humane Vitae. One of the reasons we're in such a mess is because Humane Vitae was totally ignored. Even Archbishop Ogoya, who remembers, who's old enough here to remember Archbishop Ogoya?
Use your mic.
Oh, okay. Yes. Anyway, Archbishop Ogoya, God bless him. He's actually buried in St. Matthew's Cathedral, just right to the right of the narthex as you go in. And he actually suspended some of the dissident theologians. I think Charles Curran was one of them, who basically said, well, the Pope has a right to his own opinion, but we think contraception is okay. And believe it or not, what did the Vatican do? They overrode this great Archbishop Ogoya, and they had to be reinstated. So one of the things in addition to Bud McFarland, who will be our speaker in October, one of the things I'd like to propose is that we have some type of ceremony honoring Archbishop Ogoya. We could have it right there in the narthex of St. Matthew's Cathedral, because that's where he's buried. And how many people even remember who that Archbishop was? He, by the way, was the first Archbishop of Washington, and a great Archbishop, a godly man. He was the one who told whatever union it was that owned what later became Christendom College, to sell it to Christendom College. They bought it, the whole thing, for $250,000. Incredible. But a godly man, Archbishop Ogoya. And then, so Bud McFarland is probably the most well-known Marian speaker on Marian operations. He's our speaker in October, so we're still looking for churches to sponsor these speakers. 3 of the 6 slots are already filled, but 3 of them are still open. And then in November, we're having State Senator Patricia Rucker, incredible, courageous, homeschooling mother of 5, who's taking over the state senate in West Virginia, doing all these courageous things. Gives all this credit to the Holy Spirit. Incredible lady. Matter of fact, her son Ambrose. Ambrose, please stand up. He's one of the five being homeschooled now. He's actually just finished his freshman year at Christendom College. He has an older sister who I think has just finished her sophomore year. And she actually spoke for us yesterday, and she's going to speak again in November. So we have great speakers. So anybody out there in Facebook Live land or watching this later to be posted video at thebenlife.org, get in touch with us and have one of these great speakers in your church, because it might just spark some real pro-life activity, which we really, really, really need. So with that, let's have a closing prayer, and then I'd ask all the men to knock everything down. We don't have a lot to take out, but let's take it out to our vehicles and be on our way to the Chevy Chase stop. Albert Steckline's favorite stop. Is it a good one? Let's say the memorare. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thy intercession, was less than aided. Inspired with confidence, we fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, our Mother. To thee we come, before thee we stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother, the Word incarnate, despise not our petitions, but in thy mercy, hear and answer us. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Let me remind you, if you want to sign up, this sheet is there. It won't be there for too much longer. We're heading out.
See you all over at Chevy Chase.
Come on down to Chevy Chase.